Welcome to Storied, the untold Jewish stories behind your favorite music. Season 1, The Beatles. This project started off as a live show created in partnership with the Berman Theater at the J Detroit, and has grown exponentially since then, including shows about other bands and other genres. Now we're doing this podcast where in each episode we're going to dive deep into the history and the legacy of most of our favorite band, and that is the Beatles, focusing on where Jews and the Jewish community contributed and collaborated to their stardom. Each episode begins with a recording from our live show telling a quick and high-level version of the story, followed by this episode, this deep dive really getting into it, as I interview some really special guests. It's no secret Jewish events today can be appropriately hard. We have some serious issues that we're grappling with as a community, and they often require a box of tissues and a therapy appointment afterwards. The Storied live show was conceived and developed at the J in Detroit in partnership with the Berman Theater, not as the answer to this problem, but as an answer to this problem. We are focused on a positive narrative, Jewish joy, and reminding people about the great contributions made by the Jewish community. We're excited to see Storied grow with this podcast and many more live shows. Now, you may be here because you're a Beatles fan, or you may be here because you're looking for positive Jewish content. In either case, our intent is for all of your delight, and I think you're going to get there. If you're watching this on YouTube, you see this awesome Storied shirt that I'm wearing, and it was designed and made by a sponsor of the show, Joanie Leeds. Now, Joanie Leeds makes awesome custom merch and some really great Jewish-themed merch, like the ones you're seeing popping up on the screen here. If you're listening on an audio feed, pop over to YouTube just to see what I'm showing you, because it's worth it, and I think you're going to like it. If you'd like to sponsor an episode, we would love to talk to you. Check out the links in the story notes, including our website, www.storied.show, for more information about who we are, what we do, the other bands and genres we've covered, or how we can bring this live show to your city. If you like what we've done here, please leave us a review and maybe some stars. If you have any questions, hit us up on our socials. We'd love to hear from you. All the links, again, are in the show notes. And with that, let's get this show on the long and winding road. Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 12 of Storied, the untold Jewish stories behind your favorite music. And we are in the back nine of this season, and I'm really excited for what we've done and what we're going to do today and the last couple of episodes coming up. Today, we're going to be talking with Joanie Leeds, who's an absolutely wonderful, spectacular musician. She's Grammy nominated for the album that we talked about in this episode, which is Ageless, 100 Years Young, which is an album dedicated to her grandmother turning 100. And since we recorded this, she got this Grammy nomination. So congratulations to Joanie. We're proud of you and we love you. And we're so happy for the recognition that you're getting on the world stage. Now, today's podcast episode is about the Jewish women in the Beatles' lives. And I got to be honest with you, a few weeks ago, we performed the reggae show, which was the fourth show that we've done, the Beatles being the first. Then we did grunge, then we did the Grateful Dead, and now we did the reggae session. And in the process of writing the reggae story, I mentioned two women. One was Amy Walkler and one was Rita Marley and Orly Marley, so really three women. But in that process, I realized that between the four scripts, we've got about 65 stories, and only a handful of them are about women. And of those that are about women, some of them are like this one, where it's really about the women that somebody loved, the women that Paul McCartney loved, the women that Ringo Starr loved. And that just didn't sit right with me. I got a yuck factor. To quote the Netflix show, Nobody Wants This. Now, in this episode, we're going to talk about Hannah Weinstein. We're going to talk about Marlene Dietrich, who are not footnotes in the story. These women are awesome, but the story wasn't dedicated to these women. So I'm really grateful to say that we've started writing our fifth script, and this is going to be performed live on March 29th at the Berman Theater here in Detroit. This script is called The Herstory Sessions. This is a full storied show dedicated to Jewish women's contribution to music. Like the grunge session, we're going to have a set that's talking about the women who contributed to the music, and then the second set are going to be the women in the bands. And the research has started, the outline has started, the script writing has started, and I got to say, I'm really, really excited for this show. We've got some really amazing women already lined up to participate. Yeah, I can't think of a better place to announce this than right here with this podcast episode. So check this out. Joanie and I talked about some really wonderful stuff, from her love of the Beatles to Fish to some other amazing women that were involved. And I think this is just a really special episode. So I won't hold you back anymore. I hope you don't say goodbye. I hope you say hello. But if you say goodbye, I'll say hello, hello, hello. I don't know. Why? I don't know. Let's get to the show.
When we think of the Beatles' love songs, when I think of the Beatles' love songs, I often focus on the universal themes of romance and heartbreak and young men in their 20s who are punching way above their weight when it comes to relatable life experiences. And not surprising, there's some Jewish contributions there too. Many think of Paul McCartney's wife, Linda McCartney, as his Jewish wife, but she was an important story, but she wasn't the first. In the mid-1960s, he was engaged to the actress Jane Asher. And before that, the 23-year-old screenwriter Francie Schwartz, who was known as Franny. It wasn't until after they break up that he began dating Linda Eastman, a talented photographer and entrepreneur. Linda was a strong and independent and proud Jewish woman. She broke glass ceilings, and she became the first woman to have her work featured on the cover of the Rolling Stone with her iconic image of Eric Clapton. Let's give Linda a round of applause. Linda met Paul McCartney at the Bag o' Nails Club in London and even managed to secure an invitation to the exclusive launch party for Sgt. Pepper's album at Brian Epstein's home. While most of the songs that Paul wrote to his beloved wife were written in the post-Beatles career, there's one notable exception, and that's the song Two of Us from the Let It Be album released in 1970. This tender duet featured John and Paul and the beautiful ode to love and companionship McCartney had with Linda. Now, some have argued that the song I Will off of the White Album was also about Linda, but again, that was never confirmed, so we're going to keep that as an aside. Paul and Linda married in 1969, and they remained together until her tragic death from breast cancer in 1998. In 2011, Paul McCartney found another love with another Jewish woman, Nancy Chevelle, and they famously went to Yom Kippur services together last year, and this picture went wild on the internet. Who ever thought they would see a picture of Paul McCartney during Kol Nidre? Let's do the song that we know was the ode to Linda McCartney.
Hey, before we get to this interview, I want to take a moment and thank our new sponsor, Tequila Kosher Spirits. And they make the kosher tequila that I am seeing popping up around Detroit. And if you know me personally, or if you follow my social media, you'll know that I'm sober and I don't drink. But when I go to different Jewish events and I hear this topic come up, everybody has really great things to say about it. So I'm excited that Tequila reached out and said that they wanted to sponsor the podcast. Every special Chaim deserves a special spirit, but finding high quality kosher spirits is near impossible. Until now. So we're introducing Tequila Kosher Tequila, the world's first Jewish-inspired tequila, celebrating culture, community, and tradition. Tequila is 100% kosher and 100% additive-free. Check it out at buy.tequilaspirits.com for a smooth tequila blanco and bold tequila reposado. Tequila, l'chaim like you mean it. The link is in the show notes. Now let's hear this interview. Hey everybody, welcome to episode 12. I'm here with Joanie Leeds, and I am really excited to have this conversation and more excited to hear you guys hear us have this conversation. So welcome, Joanie.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. As I was putting my notes together for today's conversation, I was most excited at the idea of the dots that are going to be connected throughout the different podcast episodes and the different stories and how they sort of all fit together. And I'm excited to share some of these with you and to hear your feedback and to hear your experiences and your stories. Like this is exciting. This is going to be great.
I'm excited. Let's jump in. Let's do it.
Let's jump in. So start off, tell us about your love of the Beatles, your history with the Beatles, why you love the Beatles as much as you do. You've covered Beatles in your albums, in your live shows. Like, talk to us about the Beatles before we get into the meat and potatoes.
I grew up listening to the Beatles. My parents listened to it all the time in the car. I heard all these stories think the funny story that my mom always used to tell me was that I think she had tickets to the Beatles when she was younger, but then her mom wouldn't my Bubbie wouldn't let her go, and I kind of understand, like, it was such a raucous back then with everybody going to these concerts, so I think an overprotective grandma in Baltimore may not have wanted her daughter to go, but, yeah, I grew up listening. My dad was, like, a big rocker, classic rock, loves to play guitar, so that was kind of always in the background in my home. I mean, a lot of classic rock, but also just like every era, can we say era like Taylor Swift? Every era of the Beatles I'm very familiar with, and I mean, it's incredible music. What can I say?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
appealing to everybody, kids, adults, everybody.
And it's funny. I heard you talk on Jonah Platt's podcast about how you play kids music, but you play music in the voice of or to kids, but you're not playing kids music. You're playing music that's good quality music, well produced, high production value, well written music, which I have found to be true in listening to your albums. I think the Beatles are very similar. It's very approachable. The songs are songs that are not, complicated, that would fly over kids' heads. There's some very, real life approachable stuff in there, but it's good music.
Totally. Totally. I mean, obviously, I try to make all of the content appealing to both adults and kids. I think the Beatles did that without even trying. It was just the way that they wrote. I mean, maybe not Let's Do It in the Road. Maybe that's barring that song. But
Yeah.
every other song, I feel like Yellow
Right.
Submarine is just such a classic kids song. Every single kids program across the United States is singing that song. I mean,
100%.
there's so many,
Mhm.
but I don't know. I think it's like one of those bands that when you think about how long they were together and how prolific they were and how many songs were hits, just like real hits, not like manufactured hits like the radio stations were like, let's make this a hit. Like they are just standalone, incredible hits.
Yep.
There's just no other band that's ever done that before,
Yep.
in my opinion.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty wild when you think about the number of albums and songs that they put out in 7 years. Two 1 to 3 albums a year. Depending on like. There's just so much music. It's so much content. It's something special and it's rare.
So much. Yeah, and when I started doing children's music, because for those of you that don't know me on the pod, I started with adult music actually, and when I say adult music, I mean music for just everyone, but
Right.
mostly about heartbreak, and I mean the Beatles have plenty of songs about heartbreak and love. That's true, but that was kind of like where I started, and then I went into children's music because I started doing birthday parties, and I would end every single birthday party getting all of the kids and all of the parents to stand up and dance together to Twist and Shout. And that was like the song that I ended every party with. So I don't do it so much with the band anymore because I'm doing mostly originals. But, when I first started, I recognized that there were certain songs that were just going to get everybody up on their feet and it was going to be a sure hit. So, yeah, thank you to the Beatles for that.
So I don't know if you did that on purpose or not, but by the time everybody is hearing this, they will have already heard the Twist and Shout episode of this podcast. Do you know the Jewish story in Twist and Shout?
No, please tell
Oh,
me. You know so many more stories than I do about the Beatles, I'm sure.
so in episode 6 of this podcast, we dive into the Shea Stadium concert and specifically the song Twist and Shout, which was a huge hit and something that they closed most of their shows with. Twist and Shout was written by Bert Berns, who was a Jewish songwriter and music executive. He also wrote Cry Baby for Janis Joplin and Piece of My Heart for Janis Joplin. Actually, just, I believe it was last week, he was inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame through the
Wow.
work of his son, Bert Berns, and Stevie Van Zandt from the E Street Band.
Oh, yes.
But
Underground
but there was a
Garage.
whole Yep. So we have a whole episode just talking about Bert Berns and who he was and what he did and how incredible his life story really was. And so I
Well, I
love the
did
fact
not
that
know
this,
that.
yeah, yeah,
That's so
Twist and Shout was,
incredible.
yep, yep. So this is, again, when we talk about collaboration and contribution and, just connecting these dots, Twist and Shout was written by a proud Jewish man, a Zionist, and his kids are
Of
out
course it
there.
was.
Yeah, yep. So can you tell us about your song, Hello, Goodbye, Shalom, and how that came
Mm.
into being? And
Well, I think I wanted to just teach kids both that are Jewish, and I think the thing I should mention is that I have only 2 Jewish albums, and then the rest of my other 10 are secular and for all audiences, but I usually sprinkle a couple of songs in there that are Jewish, Jewish. But that song is from one of my Jewish albums called Meshuggah, and I just thought it would be really interesting to teach audiences the word shalom because it means hello and goodbye and peace. And so it made me think about the Beatles. It made me think about like their song Hello Goodbye, the fact that they say it over and over again, but it would have just been so much simpler if they could just use the word shalom. And so it was kind of like a joke and a little nod to the parents who obviously will know the song. And then I gave a little nod at the end, which I'm sure you're very familiar with. Paul and Ringo, George and John. I know they won't rewrite this song, but if they did, I bet they'd use shalom.
yep, yep, that's great. So let's talk a little bit about the women of the Beatles, the women the Beatles loved. And most people focus this conversation on Linda McCartney. And I think that that's an important part of the story, but there's so much more. First of all, Ringo Starr married Barbara Bach, who was originally Barbara Goldbach, and she was Bond girl. She was a Playboy girl. I mean, she was a star, in her own right. But they got married
Yeah.
in 1981, and they're still married, and that's 44 years in Hollywood, in music world. That's centuries
It's
of
like
marriage. I mean, that's a
150
long,
years, yeah,
right?
in Hollywood.
It's like Runaway Jim, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So, it's 41 years or 44 years in human years, but in dog years is just it's a long time, and it's a really beautiful story. They just have a great love story.
Love to hear it. It's like
Love
my
to hear it,
Bubbie and
exactly.
Zadie we're married for almost 75 years. It's really special when people are together that long and they actually really love each other.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty amazing. 75 years.
Yeah.
Actually, before we get to Jane Asher, you have an album that you just put out called 100, and it's about your Bubbie
Ageless.
turning. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's called
Correction. Yeah. The album's called Ageless. It's about your Bubbie turning 100.
That's right. Ageless 100 Years Young is the name of the album. It's my 12th children's album, all about my Bubbie and her life and her positivity and the way that she is like glass half full, finding her roots through Jewish genealogy. She was the president of the Jewish Genealogical Society down in South Florida and taught other people how to investigate and find their roots. She uncovered all of our family that we didn't even know existed after the Holocaust, that were all separated. And she wrote an article called Scattered Seeds. And it's just a really incredible story. So I think her and my Zadie met when she was a teenager, and her parents actually signed to have her allow her to get married before she was 18. They were just so in love and
Hmm.
they raised their family in Baltimore, and it's just like one of those stories that stands the test of time. So my Bubbie just celebrated 100 years. We just went to Baltimore for the big celebration, and it was a lot of friends and family in the room, very special event. And so I wrote this album in her honor to celebrate not just her, but also all people that are, the matriarchs of our families and making sure that people get their stories on record and get videos of their families because, you know, it could be you could think about it and want to do it, but then never do, and then those stories are lost. So, I know
Right.
your pod is all about stories and keeping these stories alive. And I kind of wanted to do the same thing with this album.
I love it. I was driving down the road, listening to it, and there's a track, and forgive me, I don't remember the name of it, but I was like, "Is that your grandmother? Is that your grandmother's voice on the album?" Is
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes, the
That's beautiful.
last track of the album is one of her favorite songs, "Those Were the Days." It's a cover. I
Yep.
changed the lyrics a little bit to make it a little bit more Jewish, and I wanted to honor our elders, and so I used a little Hebrew to do that, and then at the end of it, I had my aunt take a voice recording of my Bubbie singing the song, and it's just really beautiful, and that's the way the album closes.
That's beautiful. I listened through and I was like, I hope that that's authentic, and I'm glad to hear that it is. That's really great.
Yes.
That's really great.
Yeah,
So, all right, let's talk about the Beatles.
let's do it.
So, Jane Asher is this famous fiance of Paul McCartney. And actually, in episode 2 of the podcast, Leslie Cavendish talks about how he was cutting Jane's hair, and that's how he became Paul McCartney's barber. But Jane was also a famous person in her own right. She played in Alice in Wonderland. She played in Through the Looking Glass. She played in The Prince and the Pauper. And actually, going to episode 3, she was in Robin Hood. She played in Robin Hood in the original TV series, which Dick James was the singer in that first song. And do you know the name Hannah Weinstein?
I don't know that name. Sounds like you
Okay,
should, though.
so I think that you're going to end up writing an album about Hannah Weinstein, because
Let's do it.
there are two people that I've talked about in this podcast who are like these awesome, powerful, incredible women who really changed the world. And one of them is Hannah Weinstein, who was a writer who basically got Robin Hood on the air by taking all these Jewish sort of outcasts and bringing them together to put this show on. And so, Hannah Weinstein was like this, just an incredible Hollywood writer who really made this happen. The other one that we talked about was Marlene Dietrich, who was not Jewish, but she was mentioned that she's on the Sgt. Pepper's album cover. And she was a German actress who paid for Jews' visas to escape Nazi Germany. And
Wow.
she was the first woman and the first German to receive Israel's Medal of Valor in 1965. And she was very, very important and very influential on the Beatles. But when I look at your album, All the Ladies, I'm like, okay, we need to include these women. Like, these are some stories that I got to tell Joanie. But
I love that. Well, I did put Ruth Bader Ginsburg in there, and she was our second female Supreme Court justice and first Jewish one. So that was my contribution. But these two
yep,
women sound very worthwhile to lift up.
absolutely. And I love being able to tell these stories. So I have a major correction to make from the live show that we've done about the Beatles, and that is, in this show I say the only song that was written about the women that Paul McCartney loved was Two of Us, which the band then plays afterwards. But that is actually inaccurate, because Two of Us was only song written about Linda McCartney. Jane
Mm.
Asher had a number of songs written about her, including And I Love Her, We Can Work It Out, Won't You See Me, For No One. I mean, there was a slew of them. And so I stand
Wow.
corrected, and this is not the first time I stand corrected. I'm very happy that people feel compelled to reach out to me and say, "Hey, Benji, you made a mistake."
That's okay. We're clearing it up today. You heard it here. We can work it out. That's that's such a good. All of those songs are so good. Ugh,
Yeah,
they're the best. So prolific.
those are Jane Asher inspired songs.
I think it's really funny too because you listen to all of these songs, and unless you actually know the history of what's going on in their personal lives, you would never know who they're about. They just sound so universal. And I think that's the appeal. That's why
Right.
everybody under the sun can just really connect with these songs because they really feel like they're talking about you and your life.
Right. And I think that's one of the amazing things about their songwriting is that they were really punching far above their weight. You know,
Hmm.
these were goofballs in their early 20s who were, you know, writing love songs, and it's like, how did you write that as a 23-year-old? Like, it's just the life
Mind
experience that it
blowing.
would normally take. Yeah, the life experience it would normally take to write that, they shouldn't have had access to, and somehow they did.
I think the four of them together was just a force. And, there's something to say about writing by yourself. As a songwriter, I always write alone. But then when I do collaborate with other people, sometimes that magic happens. And I think that's exactly what happened for the Beatles. It was just like magic when they were all in a room together. I mean, I'm sure since I'm talking to you, you've seen all of the behind the scenes footage of them in the recording studio, just kind of like futzing around with this is what John's coming up with, this is what, and then all of a sudden it's let it be and you're just like, what? How?
Right, right,
It's crazy.
right. And it's so casual, you know.
I know.
There's no marketing department or case studies or, you know, what
Right.
are the panels where they, you know, they studies people reactions. Like, there was none of that. It was just dudes, you know, writing songs. It's crazy. It's crazy.
It is. And even through all of their eras, like with the real like straight pops, rock pop stuff at the beginning, and then moving into like bringing in Indian instruments and just all of the big twists and turns in their songwriting and musicality and orchestration. It's just somehow it was still it had that universal appeal and people were really into it. It's like I was explaining to Joya, my daughter, we were listening to Beatles. She loves to listen to the Sirius XM Beatles station. That's her favorite. So
Yep.
I'll listen to the Fish station and then she's like, "Mom, can you turn on the Beatles?" I'm like, "Okay." So we listen and I was like, "Okay, so when they did this, their hair was this long, and when they did this song, their hair was this long." Like, this is not, I mean, obviously people are not looking at this video. This is a podcast. So I'm motioning that their hair was growing and their music was growing too in like all different areas and just different genres, which was really incredible.
Yep. Well, you don't know this
And
yet, but this is being recorded for video and people can watch us on YouTube. So
okay, good. All
if
right,
you're
then you will
listening,
see my hair
yeah,
lengths.
if you pop on over to YouTube and check out and see Joni's hand motions for how long the Beatles' hair were when they were writing these. So let's talk about Linda McCartney, because I think Linda is another woman who may be on your next All the Ladies album, right? Volume 2. Um, so she again wasn't just a beautiful woman that Linda McCartney, a rock star stumbled upon and was like, "I want to marry you." She was a force to be reckoned with. She was a photographer. She was the first woman whose photograph was on the cover of Rolling Stone with that famous picture of Eric Clapton.
Right.
She was breaking glass ceilings and fell in love with Paul McCartney as much as Paul McCartney fell in love with her. And, you know, as you read about their love story, it's almost like the Princess Diana, where it's like she shouldn't have been there. She was there. She met and fell, but then just wanted to live a simple life. And, you know,
Hmm.
you look at her at her post Beatles. I mean, she played keyboard in Wings with Paul, but after that, it was animal rights activism, you know, promoting vegetarianism, you know, just trying to live a simple, good life. And it's actually a really beautiful love story.
Yeah, I mean, clearly she was a huge muse to him, and I think they were probably muses for each other. I mean, ultimate power couple. I think that Paul McCartney was so famous and such an incredible songwriter and prolific mind, and I think to find someone at that level to match you was obviously like a big feat, and so glad that they found their Beshert, they found each other.
Yep.
I think it's pretty incredible.
Right. I don't know if you remember this from when we were kids, but Linda McCartney as a character, not as a person, was actually on The Simpsons as the inspiration for Lisa Simpson being the vegetarian, and it was Linda the
Uh,
vegetarian, sort of like inspiring Lisa. And I remember seeing that as a kid, being like, "What is this?"
I
Such a
don't recall
ridiculous
that exact episode, but I would love to check it out because that's very funny. Yeah, I mean, well, The Simpsons is just known for putting in incredible things from, you know,
pop references.
exactly, pop references. And when you have a platform like that that you can use your causes and then tell the world, I think that's really important. I'm glad it's for good. That's good. Those are good platforms.
Yeah, yeah, and again, back to like Linda's advocacy and her energy was really focused on this sort of simplicity, good life, being a decent person,
Mhm.
animal rights, and it's really amazing to see that shift, you know, not a shift for her, shift for most rock and roll, personalities, most Hollywood personalities, where she was just, it was simple.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
Love I love love. I love when people are in love. It's incredible.
yeah. So tell me about writing and recording love songs, because most people don't see that side of the process.
Well, I know that it's different for everybody. I feel like for me, I haven't really written any love songs since I was in my 20s because I really started focusing on writing music for kids. But I mean, I guess I do write love songs for kids. It just happens to be about like loving your family. So it's a little bit different than like a song about heartbreak or for somebody that you're with. But I always find that breakups were really important because I mean, you have to be in such an emotional state to write these really good songs. Or also, I mean, when you're fully in love, to have like love be permeating your every thought. I mean, you just walk through the world differently when you're in love, right? So it is inspiring, but I find it to be really difficult to write songs when I'm in love. I find it much easier to write songs when I'm in the throes of the turmoil of breakups. Not to say that I like a breakup and I haven't had one in a long time, but I think that it is for me when I'm in a bad emotional place, that's when I'm the most prolific. So I guess maybe that's not great for me as a person, but it is good to put the music out there. When I write not love songs, but just like any songs, for me, I have to have a deadline because I'm a single parent, so I have to have like a week of just time that I can focus and not think about anything else. I mean, my apartment is usually looking like insane and I sometimes need to get out of my apartment. I like to go away and to write,
Right.
sometimes to a sunny place or a place with mountains or an ocean, something where I'm connecting with nature. And then when I'm in that space and I don't have the distraction, everything just flies out and I'm able to really write all of the songs and I can do maybe an entire album in a week, which I think there are some songwriters, like, I was listening to an interview with Lin-Manuel Miranda, actually, and he's like, "Yeah, I wrote most of Hamilton on the subway, like, heading from point A to point B." I'm like, "How?" With the distractions, and there's people over here holding a boa constrictor, and then these guys are singing, like, how can you focus on a train? And some people just can. They can just, like, plop and insert themselves anywhere, anytime, and write. And for me, it's more of like an assignment. I need to like sit down, not have distractions. So I think it's different for everyone. I think most people right now are so obsessed with Taylor Swift and her songwriting and actually really valuing the way that she writes songs. And I know from her writing a love song and listening to her talk about it, it's very much about the breakups and very much about, you know, being in love, and I think that really serves a songwriter in general. I'm
Yep.
sure it helped the Beatles too.
Yep. I saw a similar, I don't know if it was the same interview, but a similar interview with Lynn. Is it, I always say her name wrong.
Lin-Manuel
Lynn,
Miranda.
well, yes. Thank you.
Lin-Manuel Miranda. He wrote Hamilton and the music for
Yep.
Moana and In the Heights and so many other
Yep.
things. It's incredible.
So in the where he said he wrote most of that on the subway, he also said that writing the song "My Shot," it took him a year to write it because just the cadence of it was so difficult. Finding the words to piece together to put it together, it's like most of the songs came together quickly, but that one song, which is the craziest, like the hit, was really a labor. But the way that you were talking about the songwriting process, I was thinking about the different songwriters. So you and I are both Fish fans and Dead fans, and you think like there's the story of Robert Hunter like getting drunk on some wine, and he wrote "Ripple broke down Palace" and "To Lay Me Down" in an afternoon, and it's like, oh my God, like you wrote those three incredible like timeless songs in an afternoon and while drunk, on some whatever. And, it's like, I think there's a quote where he's like, the creativity was flowing out of me like molten gold. And I'm like, okay, dude, like enough. We got it. You're incredible.
We understand.
Like, we understand.
Yeah. I can't write under the influence of anything. That is just not possible. I actually can't perform if I've had any wine either or anything. Like I just can't. That is just I take it very seriously. I'm very serious. It just it messes with me, and so that's
you're
for later.
You're more the Frank Zappa variety.
That's right. I'm sober
Are
on
you familiar?
stage.
Yeah, Frank Zappa would like fire any musician who drank or smoked before a show or came to practice, and
no, I don't fire my musicians. No, my musicians definitely. We're doing shows at 9 a.m. Like nobody is drinking at 9 a.m. But when we play Austin City Limits, we will have a beverage in the tent. Like it's just going to happen. But
it's gonna happen.
No, I know about Zappa through Fish because I know he was a big influence on them. But
sure.
I'm not like as familiar with Zappa as maybe you are, but no.
So we're going to connect some more dots for folks. So Fish covers the song Peaches and Regalia by Frank Zappa regularly. And anytime they play it, it's a good show. But Frank was famously anti-drugs. He drank, but he was anti-drugs, and he was not, people liked his intricacy, but he was not a jam band guy. He was you practice, you play it perfectly, and then you perform it on stage. And until you're performing it perfectly, you don't perform it on stage. And actually Derek Trucks is also one. He's like, people pay to see me. I'm not experimenting on stage. I'm here to perform what people expect me to do. And it's like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
But Fish also has a very interesting, like some of the songs come from Mike Gordon and him being, a goofball in the forest. And some of them come from Trey and Tom, like going to a cabin and writing poetry and doing, who knows what. Like, yeah, it's just.
Well, not anymore.
Not anymore, but yes, many goofy songs have been written both under the influence and not.
Yeah.
But you covered a Fish song on one of your albums.
I did. I covered Possum, which they didn't write, but they play it all the time. And I love that song. I just think it's so funny. I took out the first verse. I didn't do quite a long jam as, I think for kids music, you got to keep it short and sweet. They've got smaller attention spans than maybe a 30-minute jam on a Possum. But I just thought it was like a really good teaching tool to look both ways before you cross the street. So that's kind of what I was thinking. But that song actually I did on an all animal album, which I released in 2011 called What a Zoo. It's one of my best-selling albums of all time, actually. Kids love animals, and I thought it would be fun to put in some interesting animals, not just your pigs and horses and cows. I wanted to actually put in some possums and mosquitoes and sea cow, which was a big ode to living in Florida. I'm from Miami, Florida, so got to have some manatees in there. Yeah, that's That's what I was thinking when I put Possum in there, and I actually got permission from the band's manager to use it on the album, which was very cool,
Very cool.
and I don't know if this is actually going to happen, but I'm trying to convince one of my dear friends to do an all Fish kids album. And I know so many musicians that are huge. Like I see them at all the shows. So I have an idea. You heard it here first. It's the first time I'm talking about it. We'll see if it happens. I have a title. I have the whole thing. I want to make it happen.
So I'm going to send you a link after this, and I'm going to put the link in the show notes so that anybody else can see this also. But one of the sponsors of the podcast is a company called Joanie, which makes really cool custom merch and really cool, basically lot merch that's Jewish. And
Nice.
we have a heavy Dead and Fish influence in that sort of lot merch category. But one of the things that
Nice.
Joanie made a couple years ago was a fish animals poster in Hebrew, and so it's got all the animals from the fish universe as like a kids room poster. It's really cool, and I'll send you the
Interesting.
link. Yeah, so
There's a lot of,
that's
like, Fish Kids crossover, and there's a couple of accounts, like the Fish Kids and books. There's, like, a kids book, so I'm waiting to make this album, and I'm really excited to one day produce it, but I'm trying to get my own kid into it, and so when we have it like, she's not a huge fan, like, during COVID and there was the whole dinner and a movie, and we were all
sure.
watching, every what was it, Tuesday or Thursday? I can't even remember, but it was like
Hmm.
the best part of the week was dinner and a movie, and I would make the dinners actually because what else were we doing? And
Right.
so Joya was like really getting into it and thought it was hilarious that Fishman wore a dress, and I was just like all of the like idiosyncrasies about the band. And when we listen to it, she's like, we'll hear like Trey putting a lot of effects on the guitar, and it sounds kind of like wonky. And she's like, is this that guy playing the vacuum with his mouth again? Like, she's starting to pick up on the things. And I'm like, oh, no, no, this is just weird effects on the guitar.
Now,
But soon enough, she'll be at a show, I hope.
well, we can talk about Fish for hours, but I think the Beatles fans who are listening are like, "What are you guys talking about?" So,
Sorry, that was
um,
a tangent. I bet there is
it's
some
a wonderful
crossover, though.
tangent. I will tell you that I hope that when you get ready to produce it, you call me and ask me to participate because I would love to be involved in that. And yeah,
Yes.
it would be amazing. So tell me how I can.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of albums that have been made, kids albums about the Beatles and, about
Mhm.
there's probably I don't even know how many covers. It's just such perfect kids music as we were saying before, but I know a lot of people have recorded Beatles for kids.
Right, right.
I'm trying to get
I
back
wanted to
onto the
ask.
Beatles.
Well, not necessarily the Beatles, but your music. So you worked with, and if I don't get the story right, please feel free to correct me. But you worked with Mikey Parker to put together a Jewish music category for the Grammys. You are a Grammy winner for the
Yes.
album All the Ladies that we talked about earlier. Can you talk about this Jewish music category? How did it go? What's the status? Where are things going to go? Where do we stand?
Well, it is stalled, I would say, but it's not because of anything that's going on the Recording Academy side. I would say that it's stalled because of the what's going on with the Jewish musicians side. And I'm just gonna
Okay,
I'm gonna real talk it because I think that
please.
this is it's like a stern talking to the Jewish community of music makers. When you look at the Christian music community, they take their business very seriously. There are Christian labels galore. It's like a very healthy category when you talk about like the Grammys, they have a field, right? And then underneath the field, they have subcategories, and that's what you vote. If you're a Recording Academy member and you're a voting member, you vote for these categories. The reason why there isn't a Jewish category is because Jewish music makers, and I'm not talking about music makers that are Jewish, I'm talking about people that make Jewish music, liturgical music, for example, Yiddish music, Ladino music, anything diasporic that is Jewish music. They are very insular in releasing their music. They either do it through their temple or they do it, just for like the camp crowd, for example. But in order to have a category, we need them, these music makers, to become Recording Academy members. So slowly I've been trying to get more and more to join, and I've gotten a bunch to join, which is step one. Step two is to get them to put their albums on the ballot, and we need between 80 to 100 music albums that are Jewish music albums on the ballot for 2 years in a row in order for them to take us seriously. And this year I did a huge call to like a bunch of musicians that make Jewish music to please fill out a spreadsheet and put their albums on there. And they need to be on the ballot. It can't just be like released into the world. It has to be submitted to the Recording Academy's Grammy ballot. And people just didn't do it. And I'm too busy to just like to hunt people down to do it. It really needs to be something that people want to do. And so it is very frustrating because a couple of years ago, everybody was so excited about this. And I think with what's been going on these past 2 years, it's very overwhelming and people just don't have the headspace to do this at this moment. And that's okay.
Right.
I understand. I get it. I'm there with you. I'm 100% feeling all of the feelings that everybody's feeling. And I still hope that one day that we can make this happen, but I cannot do it alone. Like I really can't. I'm busy. I'm touring. I'm a single parent. I got a lot going on. I need help spearheading this. And so if people want this to happen, please, let me know after my fall tour because I don't have the headspace until that is over. After the high holidays, after the Austin City Limits and the Kennedy Center and all that stuff.
Okay, well, this will be coming out after. This is being recorded before that. This will
scratch
come out
that.
after that.
Okay.
So hit Joanie up now.
Yes.
I just want to clarify. There needs to be 100 albums submitted per year for 2 years in a row.
So basically, anybody in the Recording Academy can submit a proposal for a new category. But in order to do that, you need to have a really compelling proposal. And one of the things that they had asked for is that there are 80 to 100 albums that are Jewish albums. Not specifically Jewish. It could be any genre of music. But if we want a Jewish category, we need it to be Jewish albums submitted onto the ballot for 2 award cycles. So
Gotcha.
this year it's finished. It closed the last day of August. So
Right.
we missed the boat this year. So maybe we can try again the next 2 years. In the meantime, I'm trying to get more and more people to join the Recording Academy because even if we have the 180 to 100 albums submitted onto the ballot for 2 years, we also need people to vote for those albums. And something tells me that it's a very niche category. But there are a lot of niche categories, like the children's category, which is what I'm in, for example. Like, it's not the biggest category. There's usually, 100, maybe 120 albums on the ballot every year. So it's not like a huge stretch. And I know from when we started the proposal a couple of years ago, Mikey and I, there were 100 albums. It's just that we didn't know that they needed to be submitted onto the ballot. We thought it just needed to be in a spreadsheet, and that's where we went wrong. So we really need to get organized. I need people to be on top of it. I made the spreadsheet shareable so anybody can add, and I really would appreciate help on this if anybody wants this to ever happen. And I will also add, the Recording Academy has been really wonderful about this and explaining exactly what we need to do. It's really on us to do it.
Yeah.
There's no shenanigans happening in the background where it's like, well, they're Jewish. Nope. No, no, no. They are like all for it. They told us what to do. We need to get on. We need to get organized.
They've told us what our part is, and we need to do our part.
That's right.
All right. Before we go, I have to ask you if you know. Actually, before I tell you that, the conversation that you just had about Jewish music as opposed to Jews making music is something
Hmm.
that I used to spend a lot of time arguing with my dad about. What, he would complain and gripe that the Jewish news wasn't Jewish news, it was news about Jews. And in the
Mm.
last year, as I've been formulating Storied and the podcast and talking to funders and talking to partners, the idea of what's Jewish content, what's Jewish forward content, and what's Jewish adjacent content. And most of these Beatles stories are Jews who did things, not Jewish things. Whereas with the Dead and with grunge and with this reggae stuff that we're working on, there's a lot of Jewish content in it, and it's just understanding the difference between those two things has been an interesting experience. So
Hmm.
I appreciate that. But one of my favorite Jewish music creators is a guy in New York who I went to high school with. Do you know Yoshi Fruchter?
Yes. Yes. I do. I mean, not, we're not like friends and I don't know him personally, but I know of him very well. Yes.
He had a band called the Sandcatchers, which I loved. He had a band called Pitome, which I loved. Everything he does is just incredible. And he's always like coming up with some new twist on modern twists on classic stuff. It's pretty incredible. So,
Yeah. Very
um,
talented guy.
I remember when we were in high school, we were hanging out in his basement, and he had a whole setup there with, bass guitar and drum, and just posters line the walls. And he like walks out of his bedroom and he's like, "I finished." And we're like, "Finished what?" And he goes, "Finished learning how to play lead guitar on every single Led Zeppelin song. I can do every
Oh
single
my
one now." And we're like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, I can do every single one." And we're like, "Prove it." And he's like, "Okay." And he just started playing, and he just went through the discography and just played the songs. And I'm like, "Dude, it was nuts.
unbelievable
It was nuts."
in high
He's so
school.
good.
Wow.
Yeah, we were in like 10th or 11th grade. He was amazing.
Wow. I was
So,
like down, down, up, down, up.
right. I was
For
learning
those of you
bass and
that are
going
not
thump,
watching.
thump, thump,
Um,
thump. Right. Boom, boom,
well,
boom, boom. That's so funny. That's so funny. Okay. The way that we end this podcast is sort of doing a recap of what we're doing here. So, one of the things about Storied is the idea that Jewish events today are hard. We're grappling with some difficult situations, difficult conversations, difficult things, and you go to Jewish events today, and when I say you need a box of tissues and a therapy appointment afterwards,
for real.
this conversation's really about the collaboration and contribution, so that we're talking about positive Jewish stories and really reminding each other about the Jewish joy. So when I say collaboration and contribution, what amazing Jewish contribution and collaborations are you seeing out there today that you want to share with everybody? And let's start with that question.
I I think that there's just so much. I mean, I will say social media is has become extremely toxic and there's a lot that when you sign on, it is very it's like the wild west of just you don't know what you're going to get, but it's probably not good. And at the same time, there is a community that I have become really close with. We call each other the Emas, and we are so there for each other. It's just a bunch of Jewish moms that are all really like-minded, and I don't think like-minded politically. All of us are kind of in a different political space, but as far as like our values and the things that we stand for and loving Israel and loving being Jewish and sharing Jewish joy, it's been a really wonderful thing to connect with all these people. I didn't know a single person in there, maybe one before October 7th. And so I went on a trip like right before the war started with the Tel Aviv Institute. And it was like a really meaningful time, and became really close with some women on that trip, and came home and just what they're doing and speaking out and standing up and also just sharing Jewish joy daily has been really inspiring to me. I had an event, they all came to celebrate the release of my new album. We just show up for each other. So I think sometimes when you look at what's happening, and you look at some of the people that are the loudest talkers, it's like some of it can be off-putting, just like the lens, the way that they're framing things. And I think my friends just really have good heads on their shoulders, and I just appreciate their words. I appreciate your words too, actually. I love what you say, and I think it's really important for people to have empathy and to have understanding. Like, this is so complex, it's so difficult, and just to celebrate Jewish joy instead of always, you know, bringing up the horrible, awful things. We know that they're there. We know that they're not going away. So
Hmm.
all we can do is just be present, and be try to be as happy as we can, and share those things so that people can see that we're humans. We're humans.
Yep.
um, yeah. What can we do?
Yep.
I think our
Yep.
ancestors have been doing this for thousands of years. We're now seeing it the way that maybe our great grandparents did, or great greats.
Hmm.
It's just a wild world right now. We just have to remain positive and keep on keeping on.
Yeah. My follow-up question to that was going to be, when I say Jewish joy, what does that mean to you? And it sounds like your answer is showing up for one another.
Showing up for one another, I think for me personally, also as a Jewish songwriter that writes secular music for secular audiences as well, is sharing my heritage and my culture in a positive
Mm,
way with the world. Because
mm.
I think right now people are, I mean, I know in the children's music community, like there's a lot of noise, and I just keep showing up in rooms and unapologetically being myself, and sharing my Bubbie, for example, with this album, and sharing stories, showing up for other communities too, and just trying to bring Jewish joy even
I
to
love it.
secular audiences. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. It's such an important part of what we have going on. It's just reminding people that, like, the things that they're seeing out there being said about us are not the reality,
Right.
Um, so
And also, I will add that I think we should acknowledge that it is a scary time, and a lot of people are, you know, maybe not feeling comfortable wearing their stars in public. I always keep mine on the train, all over the place. I don't know, maybe I don't know. I feel like it's really important to make my way through the world proudly, and not everybody feels like they are comfortable doing that right now, but if you can, try to do it.
yeah, I love it. I love it. Okay. Well, we are going to wrap it up here. Joanie, thank you so much for being here. We will have links to your album and to your website and to your socials in the show notes so that people can check you out. And I look forward to hearing people's feedbacks and any more corrections that they may have for details that I may have gotten wrong. I don't claim to be the expert, just somebody who's tried to put the stories together as good as I possibly can. So
Thank you
that's
so
what we
much for
got.
having me on the
Thank
show.
you.
This was really fun.
Thank you. Thank you. We will do this more.
Sounds good.
All right. That's our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe and leave us a review. It helps the algorithm show other people this podcast. If you'd like to sponsor an episode, again, reach out. We would love to talk to you. And make sure you check out the show notes for the links to our socials and our sponsors. This show was produced by Ryan Storm from This Is Storm Sound. Editing done by Andrea Rizzuto. Production management done by Eric Nelson. Booking by Leanne Deutsch of 16 Mile Talent. Design work done by Tessa Hewitt. Research done by Avishai Bauman. Now, the music you heard is recorded by Evan Sherman, but was actually written by my late father, Rabbi Yossel Rosenzweig, as the original opening of the song that he wrote for the Diaspora Yeshiva band called Pit Huli. I'm your host and storyteller, Benji Rosenzweig, and this has been another episode of Storied, the untold Jewish stories behind your favorite music, Season 1, The Beatles.